Welcome everyone to the Rotman School of Management application walkthrough session. I'm Chavi Hartley and I'm delighted to be your host today. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Chris Jones, Assistant Director, Recruitment MBA program at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. Chris is an expert in MBA admissions and an incredible resource for anyone considering Rotman's innovative and globally recognized MBA program. In this session, we are going to take you through the Rotman MBA application process step by step, whether you're just getting started or fine-tuning your materials. Today's walkthrough will provide you with practical strategies for presenting a compelling and authentic application. What sets Rotman apart is its signature integrative thinking approach, a curriculum grounded in real-world application and critical thinking. At Rotman, it's not just about gaining business acumen. It's also about developing into a well-rounded leader who can tackle ambiguity, solve complex challenges, and create meaningful and impact across the industries. After Chris's presentation, we will move into a live Q&A session. Here is how you can get involved. Use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions. Upvote the questions you'd like most to see answered. If you prefer to ask your questions live, simply raise your hand and turn on your video, and we'll bring you into a queue. I'll be moderating the Q&A and reading the most upvoted questions for Chris to answer. And with that, Chris, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks very much for that intro. I'm going to share my screen, so let's just make sure that works. First of all, I'm just going to request screen share with you. Okay. Yeah, I've got it. Here we go. So let's just make sure. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Does that look good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure people can see the screen and they can see the view. Okay. So yeah, thanks for the introduction. I won't reintroduce myself, but I'm happy here to talk to you really about kind of two things. One would be, of course, this is a great opportunity to showcase the University of Toronto and the Rotman MBA, and also give you a sense of the 3 MBA programs that we have available for students that would be connected back to, the audience today and writing a GMAT. And then, of course, I think part of this as well is to give you some application tips that could be applicable, not only for Rotman, but for any MBA program you're looking to apply to, and then I'll answer any questions. So I'm going to go through the presentation relatively quickly, and then maybe we can take some questions towards the end, right, in the Q&A. But Xavi, if you need to stop me at any point, if there's any sort of burning questions, we can answer those throughout. Okay, so pretty much I've talked to you about the agenda. So let's start a little bit with the University of Toronto. For those of you who may not know too much about the University of Toronto or haven't really started thinking too much about either where in Canada to study or if you're looking to come to Canada to study, I'm assuming we have a kind of a global audience here. Obviously, one of the top universities in the world, and if rankings mean something to people, then obviously you can see, we're obviously the #1 university in Canada across most rankings, a very popular school here, and also globally, right, recognized, as a top 20, 25 school globally. So again, if rankings are important and, positioning yourself at a school within Canada, then obviously U of T is a great choice. It's a school that's very well known as well outside of the country. I'm actually from the UK, but I've lived in Canada for a number of years. And every time I go back to the UK, people know the University of Toronto. I would say not many other schools are that familiar to people, certainly where I come from. So known around the world. The other thing, of course, is, if you are outside of Canada and you're thinking of studying internationally, well, we live in quite a polarizing world at the moment, and there are many uncertainties. But one thing I will say to you is Canada is a country that's still very welcoming, still very stable, both culturally, politically. And so I think, Canada is still a really great place to pick if you're looking for a place to come where not only is it a very multicultural country, it still has very good, strong postgraduate work opportunities for international students. And of course, we're located in Toronto, right, which is obviously the heart, Canada's largest city. Believe it or not, it's actually the second largest financial center in all of North America. And of course, the third largest tech sector. So this is a place that has opportunity, not only within financial services, but in the growing technology sector. And most large Canadian and global companies that have operations in Canada have their headquarters in Toronto, right? So, this is a place of opportunity. And most of our graduates, when they finish Rotman, are typically initially working in Toronto, in the location where they're studying. So that's another thing to take into consideration. Where do you want to work immediately after your MBA? Because the location that you pick is likely to be where most of the opportunities are, right? So that's really key. So that's my little plug for like Toronto and also thinking of Canada as a place to study in 2025, 2026.
Chris, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt just for a moment. I
Yeah.
think because you're sharing the slides or it's not moving forward, so it's not sharing like the presentation mode.
Okay, that's a little
So,
odd because it's doing that on my screen.
yeah, like we're seeing the PowerPoint, not the presentation mode. There we go. Now we see it.
Okay. Okay,
Perfect.
sorry, I just
Thank
switched it. All
you.
right,
Thank you.
thanks. Thank you for that. So again, we're located in downtown Toronto. So again, if location is important to you, again, we are a downtown city university campus, right? So right in the heart of where all the action is, as well. So again, very convenient for our students, right, as well. And we're not a campus town that's 2 or 3 hours from the nearest major city or employer. You come here, this is where the opportunities are, and you're studying right in the heart of where everything is happening, both economically and financially in Canada. So again, we're a relatively large program. So, the opportunities to network and create that network is great as well. So obviously this gives you a sense of our sort of broader Rotman community. Going to go through these slides quite quickly, at this stage. One of the things I think is really key that people sometimes lose sight of when they're picking an MBA is understanding that an MBA basically is pretty much what I would call kind of a leadership development program. I think, there are obviously the academic courses and that you take have high value. Many of those academic courses, you're going to see quite similar curriculums across, a number of MBA programs, particularly on the core curriculum side. But really, employers come to recruit MBAs because they're looking for future leaders in their organizations, right? They don't recruit MBAs, and you don't invest in an MBA simply to become a individual contributor at an organization. You don't really need an MBA to do that. But what is the X factor in an MBA, and what is the X factor that many companies are looking for when they hire people from these programs? It is leadership potential, right? And so that is something that's absolutely vital in our program through our self-development lab and through our leadership development programs that we offer, which really focus on communication skills, interacting, interpersonal skills, and how you can be more effective leading teams, making decisions, and sometimes making difficult decisions as well, which will be required of you as you go into leadership roles. And this sort of stuff can also help you immediately as you go into job interviews as well. So don't lose sight of how leadership development is absolutely critical in your success in an MBA. So obviously we have a great kind of career services team as well. So what's really key is career outcomes are extremely important for anyone in an MBA program. You're investing a lot of money. Sometimes you're quitting your jobs to do the MBA, and you're investing time as well, right? So you want to make sure there's a good ROI on your MBA, and that requires career support. All of our MBAs are given a dedicated career coach. We also have industry advisors who work primarily on business development and making sure that all these large companies that I referred to earlier are actually recruiting our students, as they graduate or through internships if you're in our 2-year program. So lots of help and guidance. And again, remembering that if you are an international student and you come to Canada, You are guaranteed, as long as you graduate from your MBA, a 3-year postgraduate work permit. And so companies are not asking you here in Canada about what's your visa status, what's your work status, okay? Those are not questions that are being asked, and therefore that's not going against you in job interviews when you're looking to work here in Canada. So that also helps. So more importantly, what are our MBA programs? What do we actually offer? We actually have 3 programs that we offer for MBA. And of course, I'm sort of hoping that this is based on the presentation, that this is the audience. We do have other graduate programs and some executive programs, but I'm going to really focus on our 3 key MBA programs that we offer, right? We have a full-time program, an evening MBA, and now brand new, here you go, drum roll please, our new 1-year MBA, which is going to start in May 2026. So applications will open soon for that new 1-year program. So all 3 of these will require a GMAT. So this is the reason why we're doing this today with GMAT Club. Okay, so let me give you a quick sense of what our 3 programs look like and the time commitment. The full-time MBA is kind of like it's like our traditional 2-year MBA program where you have, 8 months in your first year of study, a 4-month internship, which is 9 times out of 10 is going to be here in Toronto in Canada, and then you come back for your second year, right? So we say 20 months in total. It's kind of like your classic 2-year MBA program. Anybody looking to, I would argue, if you're an international student and you've never worked in North America or Canada before, if you're looking to make a complete career change, right? So you're like in a job that you don't like and you want a complete career change, 2-year MBA is still a great product and a great opportunity for you because that internship gives you that opportunity to gain valuable work experience either in Canada or perhaps in a new industry that you're looking to move into. The 1-year MBA is a brand new program. It's an accelerated program. It is so effectively you would not be doing sort of like the core MBA curriculum that you would have in year 1 of the full-time MBA. You do some mandatory courses, but primarily go into our electives. But of course, you need to have an undergraduate business degree to be eligible for this, or you must already have a Master of Management program if you didn't do your undergrad in business or commerce, right? So you need to have done those business courses in your undergrad to be eligible for this program. It is open to international students, but we are still looking for people who have experience with, if you can, in North America, or you've worked for an organization that has operations across places like North America or Europe. And our evening MBA is for anybody on this call who's living in Toronto right now. So if you're on this call and you already live in Toronto and you're working in Toronto, this is kind of like an MBA for working professionals. But because none of it is online, it's all in person, you are required to be living and working in the Greater Toronto area so that you can commute into class 2 days a week. And this obviously takes up to 32 months to complete, because obviously you're effectively kind of doing it sort of in a kind of part-time basis, but it means that you can continue working. So there's no loss of income. It's exactly the same MBA as our full-time, right? The only thing you don't do is the internship, right? Because you're working full-time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now about our electives. So again, quickly give you a sense of if you're in the 1-year program, this is primarily your curriculum. If you're in the other 2 programs, this is what you would do in your second year or the second half of the evening MBA. So it gives you a sense of kind of some of the kind of core areas that we focus in on at Rotman when you get to start picking your courses, right? I won't go through all of them. And again, you don't have to pick an emphasis. And even if you do, you still have some free spots available to do a kind of pick and mix of everything from some of these areas. People often ask questions now, do you have courses in AI? Well, those courses are going to be incorporated into things like data analytics and modeling, innovation, entrepreneurship, and business design, right? So there are courses that are kind of incorporated into these broader emphases, right? Because I guarantee you, Javi, that's going to be a question on here probably. So hopefully I've addressed that there. So this kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of the two programs. We have one intake for all our programs, right? August for our full-time and evening program, and May for our 1 year program. Gives you a sense of the classes that you would be doing, the time commitment, and again, the type of backgrounds that people would be looking to do, right? So again, we're looking to early to mid-career people looking for career transformations, if they're making a geographical change. 3 to 7 years work experience is ideal in our full-time program, around 4 to 9 years work experience for our 1 year MBA. And again, you have to already come from a business background or undergraduate. And our evening MBA is again, career enhancers, people looking to also maybe make some career changes, but you'd like to keep working and not have that income, but it will take a little longer. Okay, so here's some admissions tips, which I think is probably quite similar for many schools, right? So I'm going to try and give you the admissions criteria for Rotman, but also this is maybe some good tips around how you can kind of navigate any MBA application. Obviously, most MBAs are going to require you to have an undergraduate degree, so that's kind of key. I think for our 1 year MBA, I've talked a little bit that it has to be, a business or management commerce degree. We would also say it's good to be confident that you had a decent grade point average in your bachelor's, right? So, to get into good competitive MBA programs, my advice is you have to say to yourself, okay, did I meet that kind of minimum, right? I've given you the Rotman minimum here, which is a 3.0 on a 4-point scale, which is kind of averaging around a B plus, right? Don't want to get into too much into the weeds on different grade point averages. But if you were getting averages of C's and D's in your bachelor's degree, it may make it harder for you to get into an MBA program, or it's going to limit maybe scholarship opportunities, right? So you have to say to yourself, okay, did I get through my undergraduate degree? And was I at least averaging a B or a B plus, particularly in my final year of study? So that's some good tips. I think if you have gone on and you have a master's, not an MBA, we don't particularly have people in our program who've already got an MBA, but if you have a master's in economics or something like that, sometimes the grades may have improved when you did your master's because obviously, you're older, more mature than when you're an undergrad. Those grades can also help complement perhaps a lower GPA from your bachelor's. So again, a general admissions tip that I would offer you all. If you have additional qualifications, anything, whether it's, a CPA, CFA, those sort of things are good. But even if you have things like, Lean Six Sigma or, Python, some coding skills, anything that's an additional qualification is also helpful. Does it guarantee admissions? Maybe not, but it can help with things like scholarships. So you always want to include those in your application. And again, for our full-time and our evening MBA, we will take anyone with any recognized undergraduate degree. It doesn't have to be a business degree to do the full-time MBA or the evening MBA, because you will still be required to take those MBA fundamental courses, accounting, math, marketing, operations, stats, right? So because you're going to be taking those courses in the full-time and the evening program, you can come from any academic background. Because you're skipping those courses in the accelerated program, we have to see that you've done those in your bachelor's degree. I hope that makes sense. So again, always think of your years of work experience as well. This is another good, I would say, admissions tip for everybody, is work experience is really key, I would say, when you're looking to do an MBA. I would always say 3 years is a really good starting point. So if you're on this call and you're still in your bachelor's degree, or you're only in your first year of work, the upside for you is you have time. And so think about when is the right time to do an MBA, right? Because what you want to remember is, and this is, I can only speak from experience at Rotman, but I've spent a lot of time interacting and talking to admissions people from across universities in Canada, the UK, and the US, is that your work experience is still absolutely vital and crucial to your success in the job market post MBA. Okay, you will need to leverage that work experience, right? Because again, when employers, certainly here in Canada, come to recruit our students, they're not looking for people straight out of an undergrad and then an MBA, because you then have no real work experience to leverage. So it's good to come when you've got that experience, you have it on your resume, you combine that with your MBA, that is the sweet spot to getting really good jobs that are suddenly going to pay you that kind of, give you that salary leap, and possibly that, you're going to go in as a senior consultant rather than an analyst in a job, for example, right? Those things are really key. So I would say work experience is key. The sweet spot is about 4 to 5 years for any of our programs. We go up to about 9 or 10 years. Anything after that, you really should be considering executive type programs, right? Because again, employers, when they come to recruit an MBA, they're looking for people who are early to mid-career, right? Right. And those are the kind of jobs that our career center can help you with. So again, if you have 10 plus years and you're on this call, you need to be considering, in my opinion, more executive style programs or global executive programs, which are going to be better fitted to where you're at in your life and your professional career. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a little bit of that. Like I said, I know this is a GMAT club, so obviously I would say 80% of our students do require a GMAT. We also take the GRE as well. But there are some exemptions at Rotman, and you can see them on the screen here. Again, we typically only take people with a CPA that's from Canada or recognized in Canada. And unfortunately, quite a lot of countries, their CPAs are not recognized in Canada. And when you get to Canada, you have to take a couple of extra courses or something to get it transferred. So you need to check to see if your CPA is recognized in Canada, and that would waive a GMAT. Couple of other quick, I would say, admissions tips that I know people may have logged on is, what about sort of admissions essays, references, and such like. So most MBA programs are going to ask you for references. So, it's always good to get professional references, right? So your current employer is good. If you don't want to tell your employer that you're thinking of maybe leaving your job to come and do an MBA, particularly if you want to do two of our full-time programs, think of someone you've worked with in the last couple of years, right? It doesn't have to be the CEO of your company, just someone where there's been a reporting relationship, where you have reported to that person in some manner, right? Those things are really great for references, and those people are often easily more accessible, and they're going to have the time to do the reference. I don't know how it works for a lot of universities, but most schools now just simply, you simply have to get their email address, you put it into the application form, and most universities now will just send them like an online questionnaire to complete. So they don't have to write a letter from scratch, right? That's quite rare in 2025. So as long as they know the email and the online survey is coming, or where they answer the questions and hit submit, comes back to your application. References are quite easy now to get done. Many schools may ask for an admissions essay. We may still be in our next cycle, but we may be looking to change that. Sometimes schools will ask you for like a statement of intent, so write a short statement to explain kind of like what's your intent, why do you want to do the program, what you're hoping to get out of it. I know some schools now sometimes will ask you for some sort of career mapping exercise where you have to sort of write a short statement to describe kind of what your career goals are, and then how is the MBA going to get you there. Or it could just be a simple admissions essay where you kind of talk a little bit about yourself, what's your story, how have you come to this point in your life where you want to do an MBA, and then what do you think you can bring to the student community. So we're very big at Rotman on student community. We're an extremely diverse MBA program, which represents the diversity of Toronto as a city. And obviously, we like to ask our students again to showcase what they think they can bring to the program, right? Because we want to create a collegial, collaborative class, right? And so, what are you going to do to add value to your colleagues in the program as much as achieving your own career goals? So I think those are kind of the key things around admissions tips. A lot of schools may also still have admissions interviews. We do, those typically are going to nowadays in 2025, most of them are done over Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So you'll have a sort of video interview with someone from our admissions team. And again, prepare for that interview as if you were preparing for a job interview. Okay. Very rarely will any MBA interview be technical in nature. Your technical assessment is your GMAT and your bachelor's degree, right? If you get through those, the technical assessment is done, certainly for Rotman. So we're then looking to kind of get information about your motives, maybe share some experiences that you've had in the past, particularly professional experiences, and then kind of assessing, what are some of your goals and do we believe that we can help you achieve those goals in our program, right? So it's very similar to a pretty straightforward HR job interview that you might have, right? So that's how you can prepare for the interview. Obviously, I'm going to take some questions now, but if you are interested in Rotman, if you feel inspired by my very quick presentation, and you like the idea of coming to Toronto or if you're outside of Canada, coming to Canada, scan that QR code on the screen. I'll leave it up on the screen while we do questions as well, because I think, that's a great way to get you straight into what we call a personal consultation. So at Rotman, we're willing to offer all candidates, as long as you submit your resume as well, a personal one-on-one consultation with you. That would be a meeting a bit like this with one of us over Zoom or Teams, where we can talk about your profile, answer specific questions that you might have about your own goals or any concerns you have. And then, of course, it can really if things are working well, it can help fast track you through our admissions process. Alternatively, you could just email us at that inbox as well if you have questions. But the QR code is a great way to fast track yourself into a conversation with a human on our recruitment and admissions team. So I'll leave that up for now on the screen while we go through questions. And hopefully we have time for questions because I did rattle through quite a lot of information there quite quickly.
Thank you, Chris, for that incredibly insightful walkthrough of the Rotman MBA application. Now let's go into our audience questions. The question by Abhyartha Desai: does an applicant with a 3-year degree from India eligible for MBA application? Is the application evaluated holistically as a whole, or is there a specific part which are just prioritized?
Yeah. I mean, we do take 3-year degrees from India. So we have done in the past, so I don't think anything would change there. So please feel free to apply. It's absolutely holistic. It's absolutely holistic. I mean, I think, I always like to say to people, one thing to remember is you are applying to an academic program. So if your grades are bad and your GMAT is not good, it's gonna make things difficult for you. Not impossible, but don't lose sight of the fact that those things absolutely matter because this is still an academic program, right, that you're applying to. However, I would say that absolutely it's definitely a much broader assessment process. Everything that I talked about, work experience, references, essay, again, GMAT, bachelor's degree, grades, all of those carry weight and value. And certainly I would say that your work experience and your sort of communication skills will have equal value to your academics. If you can combine all of those, and you're scoring well across all of those, that's going to lead to scholarship opportunities. So that's kind of how we look at it. We don't just give scholarships to high GMATs.
Karanjot Singh asks, as the founder of an AI startup, I'm curious about how my entrepreneurial background might impact my MBA admission chances compared to candidates with traditional corporate experience. Assuming similar academic credentials, test scores, and overall qualifications, does being a startup founder generally increase or decrease admission prospects at top MBA programs? What specific advantages or challenges should I be aware of when positioning my entrepreneurial experience in my application?
Yeah. So first of all, we love entrepreneurs, right? So sorry, I forgot the name. You should apply, right? We love entrepreneurs at Rotman. Have no problem with entrepreneurs. In fact, no offense to the people working in banks on this call, we don't want a program full of people who've worked in a bank. We welcome you, but that's not diversity, right? So we want diversity of work experience, we want diversity of backgrounds, and so entrepreneurs are absolutely welcome. I think obviously if you are an entrepreneur, you've got to say to yourself, how do I, who do I use as references, for example? That might be clients would be maybe for references and things like that. So sometimes entrepreneurs have to be a bit more creative about some of those components, but absolutely. And the other thing I would say to you is, if you're an entrepreneur, what are you looking to do when you graduate, right? Are you looking to continue on and maybe continue on with your business post MBA? If you are, fantastic. We love that as well. Those are great stories when we hear about our alum who've gone on and either continued in their own business or started their own business. Or are you looking to then come to Rotman and say, I liked working for myself, but now I actually would like a more traditional corporate job. So again, what we then have to do is our job in the Career Centre is to help position you for those roles and focusing on transferable skills, right? And entrepreneurs have lots of really great transferable skills. So not a problem. It's absolutely not a problem. I would say anyone here is an entrepreneur, please apply. It's all about how you position yourself, right? Yeah, it's great. Diversity is so important in our program, especially professional diversity.
Thank you, Chris. Bhavya Dhankani asks, can international students apply for evening MBA if they decide to move to Toronto?
No, not really. First of all, you'd need to be here, you need to be a working professional, right? So if you move to Toronto but you're unemployed, you are not eligible for the evening program, right? Then I would also say to you, do you have work authorization in Canada, right? Are you a permanent resident or are you a Canadian citizen, right? Because that is the only thing that will enable you to be able to work here in Canada, right? It's very different to our full-time students who are on study permits, and those study permits have allowances for working. So again, you also have to look at what is your visa status and what is your immigration status in Canada. But if you move here and you are working, we have had some students who are on work permits. That means maybe you've got a company transfer and you're able to move to Canada, but you're on a work permit because your company has sponsored you. There are sometimes workarounds where you can continue working and do the evening program. But my first recommendation would be no. I would encourage you to look at the full-time program.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Temoko Yamachi asks, how does it affect if the referee's email does not align with the name of the company or on resume? For instance,
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. As long as they write the reference and send it back to us, that doesn't matter. Quite often, a lot of company email addresses have firewalls and things, which makes sometimes because the reference request will come through like an automated system. I'm not sending it directly to your references. So sometimes references actually use their personal email addresses because that's how it's a better way to receive the reference request. So don't worry about that at all. Not an issue.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Bhavya Dhankani asks, what is your average GMAT focus score?
Oh, the $1 million question. Well, there isn't really one, I would say. I think we have like a minimum of around 520, 525 GMAT focus. I think anything below that makes it very difficult for you to be admitted. But obviously that score may not get you scholarships, right? So I'd be always working towards, if you can, right, 600 plus on the GMAT focus. But I don't want to give you exact scores because that can be very misleading. So what I've done is said anything below around 525 is going to make it tough for you to get in, if that helps. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Ishan Goyal asks, how are schools differentiating essays written by AI versus a human? Should we totally avoid use of AI in essays?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would always say to you, right? I would encourage you to avoid it. For many years, up until quite recently, we had to do these things ourselves and use our brains to do it and be creative, using the power of our own brain to be creative and write a good essay. So my recommendation would be, obviously avoid it. Sometimes AI can give you some good ideas, and I use AI and ChatGPT in my own job sometimes, right, to kind of give me sort of pointers or ideas. And then I can use that as maybe a framework to then build out something that's more in my own voice and my own language. But it's a lot easier for us now to see some of the quirks of things like ChatGPT. And then, of course, if we start seeing essays that all look very similar, that could be a bit of a red flag. So I think it's like use it as a tool because it is a great tool, but try and think of, do you want it to write the resume for you? Could we spot that? And we have spotted it. We also see it in emails as well that we get. Or can you use it just to generate some ideas or give you like a framework and then you can, okay, well, I've got a kind of good, this is how I should start my essay, this is how I should conclude it, and it's giving me some pointers. I think that's the best way to use AI, in my opinion. I'm a little older than maybe some of the people on the call, but that would be my advice, right? Just be careful with AI because the last thing you want to do is get caught out. And you could be a really good candidate, and then you've kind of got caught out because we've sort of noticed that it's kind of done through ChatGPT or whatever.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Rabi Agbonoga, he asks, what is your take on someone that have an MBA in their home country but wants to take another MBA at Rotman? Is that advisable?
Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely okay. If the MBA is from outside of Canada, we have admitted students before. So I would still say, as long as your MBA is not a Canadian MBA, then I think you're okay.
Benjamin Buffy asks, how are entry scholarships determined? Do you
Yeah.
offer full ride?
Well, I would say, generally most graduate education or most MBA programs are going to offer various degrees of scholarships. But I would probably say to everybody on the call, I think when you enter into any kind of MBA admissions process in North America, and possibly even in Europe, is be aware of the ticket price, right? Be aware when you apply of the ticket price, right? If you look at that ticket price and you're like, there is no way I could make that work without a full ride, it's extremely risky application for you, right? Because we don't hide the cost, right? However, let me say to you, yes, we do offer scholarships. Of course we do. And there are maybe two or three, four students a year in our program out of close to 200 that will get full rides, full scholarships. That is available. You simply have to apply for the program. There is no separate application, right? If you are an exceptional candidate, then there are opportunities for either full tuition scholarships or close to full tuition scholarships. However, 95% of our students are coming to Rotman, and again, I would say this would be applicable to most reputable MBA programs across Canada and North America. And they are going to have a combination of a scholarship, any savings that you have, and not being afraid to utilize student loans, right? So you have to, I think, have some comfort level with utilizing student loans as well. So That may not be a whole lot of money based on your savings and the scholarships. It could be significant. It all depends on the offer that you get from Rotman. But I would say, most of our students do get scholarships, and, I'd say average somewhere between 10 and 30% of tuition is kind of the average range of scholarships. I don't want this to put people off, but I also don't want to come on here and lie to people that you should all apply because you're all going to get full rides. And any school that does that, I would be questioning what they're selling you. It's absolutely a kind of a combination of those three factors that I think is the experience of most of our students here at Rotman. A couple of things to just bear in mind, because I think this is a great question about scholarships, is our program is in Canadian dollars, right? It's not in US dollars. Bear that in mind. So if you are from overseas, our currency is, it's obviously you get a little bit more on the exchange rate in Canadian dollars. If you're looking at the full-time program, which I would suspect many people, if you're overseas, this is going to be the program for you. The internship is paid, right? That is up to 4 months where you're in a paid internship, right? So you are able to generate income in Canada when you get here, or if you're a Canadian applicant, you've still got that option to generate some income. And then in the second year of our MBA, which is the schedule's a little more flexible, a little less intense than our first year. If you're on a study permit, you're allowed to work up to 20 hours a week outside of your internship on that study permit. Again, great thing about coming to Canada. So many of our students will work on campus. They may have TA jobs, teaching assistant jobs, research assistants. They may even continue working in the companies they did their internship with on a part-time basis. I can't promise any of that, but that sometimes happens as well. So there are ways in which you can, coming to Rotman, you can generate some additional funds after the first year, right? First year, we do not allow students to work in the first year, which is only 8 months, remember, in the full-time program. So again, just giving you ideas of what else is out there. And then, of course, we have in-program scholarships. So once you get here, you can apply for in-program awards and bursaries that are an application. So that's up to you to apply if you're eligible. So just trying to give you some sort of broader concepts of not only scholarships, but how you can help kind of finance this MBA experience, particularly if you're a full-time student.
Thank you, Chris. I think we are on time now. Thank you, everyone, for being here. A quick reminder, session recordings will be available shortly, so you'll be able to revisit any part of this discussion. And you can always reach out to Chris. There is a QR code that's provided to you. Please scan it and go ahead and schedule a meeting. Thank you again. We hope to see you at future Rotman events. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Bye.